What's up, guys? This is going to be a little somber um, because I am sharing an extremely traumatic ghost story slash demon story that happened during a really crazy time in my life. I was 16, um, and I've kind of made little comments here and there throughout other videos. And I've had ghost experiences and stuff my entire life. I was 6 when I seen my first ghost, and I still have. I live on a haunted land, so. Anyways, I'm gonna try to stick to just this story instead of branching off like I always do. But I get sidetracked in this brain a lot. So, if you like the paranormal of any kind, you're going to want to hear this. I know a lot of you guys love my ghost stories more than anything, so this is for you guys. I haven't really talked about it much except for with my mom, and she also experienced some things there. So, um, I wanted to wait though till she got into the shower and then record this. So, here goes. So, I was 16. My little sister was, I think, a year old or a year and a half. Um, my mom and dad were separated, and me, mom, and my little sister were living in apartments. Mom wanted to move out, and she found this house, and I had not yet seen it. Neither had my nana. Now, at the time, back then, I did not know about what I'm about to tell you about my nana. I just found this out last week when me and my mom were discussing this whole thing. Okay, so what happened was, mom tells me, I found this new house. It's great. We're gonna live there. We're going out there tomorrow with your grandmother to go see this place. And I was just like, fine, whatever. I was happy where I was at mostly. I mean, I was 16. I was happy as any 16-year-old would be. Um, so I was just like, whatever. But that night, everything changed. Once I had not seen this place yet. Okay, we didn't have cell phones back then. This was like 1997 or 90, yeah, 97. Um, so, no cell phones. I had not seen a picture of this place. And this place, I have never, ever even went down this road, okay? So I know for a fact I had never seen it, not once in my life. And I know some of the freaking professionals out there, they want to say, you can't dream of something you've never seen. That's bullshit, okay? Because I have never, I know that for a fact, been down that road until the next day. So the night before, I have this dream. And my mom didn't even tell me what the place looked like, okay? She just said it was a house. Um, that night I had a dream. And I'm standing in front of the house on the bridge. I had just walked across the bridge. There was a little bridge that went across a creek right there in front of the house. And I walked across the bridge, standing in the driveway slash yard. And I see this house, white house, light blue shutters, old. Like I'm talking like super freaking old, like maybe built in the 1700s or early 1800s, kind of old, but nothing fancy. It was just one floor. Well, there was an attic, so there was 2 levels, I guess, and it was like made out of those old 2x4s. It was just like slabs. I mean, yeah, there was like um, later on, I'm sure they had put in like the drywall or whatever. Um, but there had to been some kind of insulation. Anyways, uh, so I'm standing in front of this house and it's really hazy, and I hear this loud voice that says, "Do not move in there. Do not. Stay away." And I'm like, okay, I wake up and I'm like, oh, hell no. I don't have dreams like this. And when I do, I know to listen to it because I knew it was God saying, honey, you don't want to go there because it's going to be bad for you. My mom would not listen to reason. She thought it was her dream home. So she takes me and Nana there the next day. And I see it. and I about crapped my pants because I was like, this is the same dream. I told my mom about the dream that morning when I woke up, but she wouldn't listen. She was like, oh, you just don't want to move away. You don't want to live further away from your boyfriend, blah, blah, blah. I wasn't living that much further away from him, so it wasn't like a big deal. And that was not the reason, but she would not believe me. She thought I was this typical hormonal teenager, you know? And I'm just like, no, that's not the reason, Mom. I'm like really terrified. God told me we don't need to move in there. She wouldn't listen to me. I find out, though, just like I said last week, that Nana had the same dream. Her mom had the same dream and tells her about it before we got to the house. And I had just told her that same day, and woman still don't listen? Please, come on, like, for real. Like, but my mom, I love her, but she can get a little, like, focused on things that she wants, and she can build up all these positives in her head and convince herself that it's, you know, her dream house or it's God's plan or something, and none of that was true. She also learned the hard way. So did me and my little sister. So anyways, had a bad feeling while we were there. But we didn't go in that day because the landlord wasn't there. We had only seen the outside. I admit the land was gorgeous. It was on 84 acres of land. We wouldn't have owned it. We were just going to rent. But still, I mean, it was a lot of land. It was beautiful out there. I mean, hell, like, if it wasn't, like, all demonically infested like that, I'd probably move back. But not because, you know, but because of those demons, I'm not. So anyways, so a couple weeks later, we do get ready to move. And my mom had I finally convinced her to let me get some paint and paint that room. And it turned out being the wrong color. It was like a Pepto colored pink when it was supposed to be like a burgundy. But my mom was like, I don't want you having anything too dark. And I'm just like, you know, so I had to like go. I thought I was picking like a rose color, but it, like I said, it's Pepto. Anyway, so I'm painting my room anyways. And I'm just like, maybe once it dries, it'll look better, you know. So I'm trying to be all positive and stuff. I get about halfway done with my room, and I'm just like, all of a sudden, I just stop, I drop the paintbrush, and I start fucking crying. And I'm just like, I don't know what's wrong with me. Now, I'm an empath, but for a long time, I didn't know what I was called, you know, what that meant. I just knew that I sometimes felt things from people or things, you know, or situation, or just ghosts and stuff, you know, spirits, leftover energy from previous peoples that had lived there, or, you know, whatever. So I walk into the living room, and I remember sitting on the step ladder, and I just start bawling even harder. Like, I'm crying for almost 20 minutes straight, so hard I can't breathe. And my mom's like, what's wrong? And I'm like, I don't know. Something is not okay. I'm like, I don't know. And she's like, are you hurting? I'm like, no, I don't know what's wrong. So anyways, the first night there, when we finally spent the night, it was a little creepy because we didn't have our curtains up yet. We're out in the middle of the country. I mean, it was dark because there's trees. So, like, even the moon's light was, like, blocked out. So it got dark as sin in there. So me and my mom, my bed wasn't set up yet, so I slept on the couch, I think, that night. Anyways, so I had a dream that night that there was blood dripping out of the wooden slabs of the ceiling, because, yes, they weren't like your regular ceiling. They were also like these 2x4 wooden slabs. Okay, and I had a dream that from the attic coming down through the wood, the blood was just dripping down. And because I remember seeing little drops on the floor. I can remember that dream till this day as clearly. But something else happened in the dream that I can't remember, but I know there was something else that happened. Well, okay, so so anyways, that morning I wake up, I go to mom's room, And we're talking, it was early. It was like sun had just rose, and I was like, we were talking about what we should go eat for breakfast. And all of a sudden, I started tasting blood in my mouth, like a lot of blood. Like, when you bite your tongue and you just get like a little taste of blood? Like, this felt like somebody had just slit my tongue open or something. And my mom is suddenly tasting blood too. We practically said it at the same time. And so I'm like, do you see any blood in my mouth? And she's like, no. And I looked in her mouth and I'm like, there's no blood. And then I remembered that dream and I told her about it, and she blew it off though. Oh, it's probably nothing. It's probably symbolic because you're afraid of being in a new house, blah, blah. Anyways, let's fast forward. So it started off with like seeing shadow people in that house, hearing voices. There was knocking that would constantly come from upstairs in the attic. And like, I'm sorry, but hang on a minute. This house stresses me out to this day, okay? This has been like 20 years ago, and I'm still like PTSD'd about it, okay? Okay, my phone is falling. Like, I was like, I'm not moving. Why is happening? Okay. That was creepy. Well, almost nightly, I was having nightmares. Now, I've had night terrors since I was like a baby, like under a year old. I was having night terrors all my whole life, and sleep paralysis too, my whole life, and nightmares. So nightmares was not new for me, but I was having very specific dreams of things that were happening in that house, being chased by like a guy with a chainsaw, being chased with someone else with like a knife, and then being shot at with a shotgun. I mean, like all these weird things. And then like a couple of the dreams, it was like it was on the land but in a different house. Now, you could not see any other house on this land, all right, from anywhere that I had walked at in just the front and backyard. There were trees everywhere. Well, my dad would still regularly come over and visit me and my little sister, and he knew the landlord, the owners, very well. Found out that it was my old gym teacher, and she was part of a pretty well-known family in our community, and it had been in their family for over 100 years. And her mom had died there. Her mom's dog died the same day, which was buried in the backyard. And anyways, but the land had still been lived on for far longer than that. My dad proceeded. I start telling my dad like these weird dreams, because I mean he would like really take me serious when it come to some of this weird stuff that was happening. And I started telling him my dreams, and he proceeded to tell me stories of things that had actually happened there, and it was literally the dreams I had had, almost exactly, And there was a house quite a ways back on the property behind a ton of trees. And the house wasn't there anymore. It was just like part of the foundation on the ground. So there's no way you could have seen it from up there, about the house that's by the road there where we're in. And, and there was still like a half of a chimney, fireplace there. And in that house, a man, his wife, and kid had lived there. And trigger warning, say now, okay, he had killed his family and then himself in that house with a shotgun. Okay, so that was one of my dreams. And then the other ones, there was other things that had happened in the home I lived in as well, or on the property. Also found out later, because I started having some really weird, messed up, like Native American type dreams, like where Indians were, Native Americans were in them. Found out that was also an old Indian reservation. or not a reservation, but like burial lands or something, and they had lived there, one or the other, I can't remember. But there was some Native American mounds behind the house, and very cool to look at, and like explore and stuff, but terrifying to live on. Well, anyways, okay, so I started hearing like this ball bouncing in the attic like all the time, and I'd hear like a little boy giggle, like it was very unearthly. Well, my dad proceeds to tell me that my gym teacher, the landlady, her little brother, when they were all kids, she had a little brother who had a mental disability, and he used to, I don't know if he was up there because they made him be up there or what, but like, or if he just like playing up there. But he had this ball, he would always bounce when he was playing up in the attic. And sometimes it would roll down the steps, which was another sound I had heard too. So I'm just like, okay, that's great. Well, okay, so in my room, it's beside my mom's, but in between our rooms is a closet, and it connects. Like, you could literally walk through my closet door and just go straight out into my mom's room. There was like no door. I had to leave like a sheet hanging over our things, and there were times when it looked like someone had walked out of it, or the like as wind was blowing it or something like that. There was the water was sulfur, but you don't always smell that. If the water's not running, you don't usually smell it, from my experience and knowledge. But there would be times you could smell it really, really strong, like rotten eggs. And we didn't have like natural gas or anything like that. Um, the nightmares and stuff started getting extremely bad. And so what my boyfriend was allowed to come over like every other weekend, and then I would go to his house on the other weekends. And he's actually now my husband, so he can vouch for this as well. And my sister would wake up in the middle of the night screaming and pointing at something, and it kind of be up a little higher than her. She's standing up on her scribs, jumping, screaming, and terrifying, and pointing, and just looked so scared. And me and my boyfriend, my husband, I would be like, we know something's going on here. We would see shadows, like shadow people, pass by my windows at nighttime. So, like, they were darker than the night was. The bathroom, I'd always take my shower at night after my mom and sister would go to bed, because I worked all day. I homeschooled myself late at night, and I helped take care of my sister in the afternoons and the days I was off work. So I was always busy. I was always up late. So mom and my sister would go to bed, and I'd go take a shower at night. It was just always my routine. Well, but when we moved in that house, it stopped being my routine, because every time I'd go in that bathroom, I'd hear somebody going, Amy, Amy, Amy. Hang on. My skin's crawling right now just doing that. I'd always go into my mama's room. She'd be sound asleep, so would my sister, and she was only, like I said, a year and a half at the time, so she couldn't even really say my name yet. And if she could, it definitely didn't sound like that, and she was asleep. So I'd wake my mom up, and my mom was a very sound sleeper. If somebody had been whispering through the house that loudly, she would have heard it. And I was like, crap, sorry y'all. I'd ask her, were you like whisper hollering for me or something? And she'd be like, no, honey, I was asleep. And I was just like, okay. And after this happened for a couple of weeks, I just said screw it, and I stopped taking my showers at nighttime. I had to take them while my mom was still awake, because I was that scared. There was something about the back porch that terrified me, and I could see it from my bedroom window. I remember a woman walking into my room during the middle of the day. She was translucent, and she felt kind of okay. Like, she didn't feel like all scary. I felt like maybe she was kind of like maybe the mom that had died in that house or something years ago. Maybe kind of watching over me, or somebody. I don't know. Well, anyways, one night my boyfriend spent the night, and there was I had a sorry, this story just gets me all kinds of jacked up in the head. I had a futon bunk bed. He'd sleep on the top, I'd sleep on the bottom bunk. This one night, we'd both got in bed, and we still had the light. No, we turned the light off at first, and we were talking in the dark, and all of a sudden we start hearing, oh, hang on, there's nothing really I can, but on metal. Like, if this was, I don't know, there's no metal in here. So, wait, maybe that'll work. No, that ain't gonna work. But, like, okay, those futon bunk beds, they were like a hollow metal, poles, alright? So, if you can imagine, like, maybe something like this hitting that metal, and it was like a ding, a very loud ding. And it was kept on going. And there was no rhyme or reason to it, I don't think, that I can remember. I just remember that it went on for like an hour or more. We ended up turning on the light, and we're just like, what is that? And like, it was so weird because it wasn't coming from just one part of the bed. We kept like looking, putting our ears out, looking all over for it with our ears. And like, it was just, we couldn't figure out where. I finally went and woke up my mom and told her, and we didn't have pets, okay? So there was no pets around making noises either. I went and told her what was going on, and she's like, oh, it's probably just like a wasp or something, or ladybug stuck in one of the, like hitting your bed. And I'm just like, dude, I'm sorry, but if it was doing that, first of all, it would not have been that loud or that heavy of a hit. Like, it was something heavy, like heavier than a wasp, maybe like a screwdriver or something, or hammer hitting it. But if a bug was doing that, it would have been dead by after a few minutes of doing that, let me tell you, because it was hard. But it went on for a very long time that night. And there was some kind of spirit in the house that did not like my husband. He's half black, half white, and there was a lot of people that had lived in that house previously that had died in that house that had been very big racists and Confederates and all that. And one day I'm on the phone talking to my boyfriend, and I'm looking at the wall, that I had painted, and I had just done strokes up and down, like that with, I think, a roller. And as I'm talking to him on the phone, he'd put me on hold. I remember that. And I'm just kind of staring at the wall, and all of a sudden I see, no joke, a swastika. The Nazi symbol? Yeah, that thing, and then it goes that way, was literally smeared into the paint on my wall. Like, I just literally watched it happen. Tears just start rolling in my face. Like, it was that terrifying and that scary, and you could just feel a hatred around, coming from the spirit that was near at that time. And I told him as soon as he got on the phone, and we had some dark green paint under the sink, and I didn't care if I got in trouble, but I ran and I grabbed it, and I went over that spot like numerous times just to make sure that it didn't bleed back through or something. And I don't think it did. But so there were other incidences. It got so bad to where something kept whispering and talking to me in my room. The nightmares, the sleep paralysis, all of these things kept going on and on and on. And there was a demon that would come in and like taunt me, and it would tell me that it would, it was gonna hurt my family, it was gonna hurt my sister or something. And so I started sleeping on the couch because we already left the kitchen light on all night, but it wasn't enough. Even though I could see it from my room, it still wasn't enough. Turns out all the lights in the house, all the lights on this planet wouldn't have been enough to keep me unafraid. So I started sleeping with the TV on. It was the first time I really ever got used to that and realized it helps me. Until this day, I have to either watch Netflix on my phone or some kind of videos or watch the TV because it'll help block out sounds from the spirits or whatever. And I also noticed it kind of helps with nightmares. But back then at this house, it didn't help with any of it. Um, so I would have dreams where I was literally talking to the devil himself, who looks just like a man, but I knew it was the devil because he told me in the dream he was the devil, or he was, I don't know. He said I'm Lucifer and I'm your enemy or something like that. I can't remember exactly. I just remember being very terrified, being trapped, and I wake up and I'm paralyzed and I'm awake, and I remember like I was trying to move so hard to get my mom's attention to wake her up. I knew if I could just throw something on the floor, I could wake her up, and nothing was working. Like the first thing I tried, I always slept with a teddy bear that my husband had given me on my birthday one year, and uh, I was, since most of me was paralyzed, what I did was I think it was on my chest or something, and my hands were like this, and so I just kind of went like that and tried to knock it on the floor. I was hoping his nose, like the hard nose of the teddy bear, would hit the floor, the wood floors, and wake up my mom. It didn't work. It didn't hit the nose, didn't hit the floor. So it was soft and quiet. So my next thing was, if I can grab one of these coasters off the table that's on the other side of the couch here, I could maybe do that to it on the floor, and the edges will hit the floor hard, and it'll wake up my mom. And I knew that would work if I could just do it. And in my head, like, because my mom, like, I grew up in church, and my mom would always tell me how to, like, get rid of, like, that or scary things or demons or whatever. So I started, and since I couldn't say it with my mouth, I couldn't even speak. And so in my head, I just kept going, Jesus, 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 over and over and over. And it wasn't really working. And eventually I was able to get my hand up somehow where I got the coaster. And I mean, it felt like hours, trying to do this. And I finally got my finger to go like that to knock the coaster off the table. That coaster went like that flat and just skidded softly and soundlessly onto the hardwood floor. And I was like, that was not supposed to happen that way. I'm just like, finally, I don't know, a few minutes later, I finally broke out of the sleep paralysis. And I remember right before I broke out of it, this is something I tried to block out for a long time, but I couldn't. There was the doorway from the hallway in the kitchen area, and it come into the living room, and then like immediately there's my mom's room to that side, and there's no like actual doors, there's just doorways. And as I'm still in the sleep paralysis, I look up. Now I have a lamp on in the living room, I have the TV on in there too, I have the big kitchen light on, and I think the bathroom light was on as well. So it wasn't dark enough to where things could be messing with my imagination. Like, it was bright, okay? And I look up, and in that doorway, standing, getting ready to come into the living room, was this weird, like, like translucent, transparent type of figure shaped like a man, almost as tall as the doorway itself, very big, and you could kind of see through it, and it almost looked like little glitchy lines going through it, and you could hear static coming from it. The TV was not staticky. There was still a show playing, but the volume was down. It was on mute. So I knew it wasn't the TV, and the TV was on the other side of the room anyways. So anyways, it looked at me like I knew it didn't have eyes, but I knew it was looking at me because its head was aimed towards me, and I'm looking at it, and I felt such a dangerous vibe coming from it, and I knew this thing was dangerous, and I had to get rid of it somehow, and I knew it was about to go into my mom and sister's room, which is exactly what it did. Well, right about that time, I broke out with a sleep paralysis finally, and at that time, it does. As soon as it stops looking at me, I break out of the sleep paralysis, and it turns into my mom's room. I jump up as fast as I can, and I must have run through it, because the second I run through her doorway, I run through this energy field that was like unlike anything I have ever felt in my life, and have yet to feel anything like it since. Some people, when they have like a ghostly thing that they run through, they say it's cold or whatever. This wasn't just a coldness, this was like electric and a vibration. There was like this vibrating field, like maybe a low frequency vibe. You could just like that, kind of thing. So I got in there and I woke my mom up immediately, and my sister was standing up in the bed, and as soon as I ran in there, she looks behind me and starts crying. And I started telling my mom to pray, please pray right now, pray. And she was like, what? Pretty quickly she realized, well, something was wrong, so she did start praying, and I did too. But yeah, this video is already really long. Like I said, there might be a part 2, because these things happened constantly in this house. I ended up sleeping on the couch for 6 months, which is exactly how long I lived there. 7 months, I think, 7 or 8 months, and slept on the couch for 6. And I ended up moving in with my dad, because I couldn't take it no more. I wasn't sleeping, I wasn't eating, I wasn't happy. I mean, it got me into a depression. It got to where I resented my mom. She was different when she lived there too. And so was my sister, as a baby, I could already tell. I mean, she was a toddler. There was a difference in her when we lived in that place. Mom lived there for 2 years. 2 whole freaking years, okay, of living in that hellhole. And to this day, there are still things that happened to her after I moved out that she will not talk about, because it scared her that bad. Mom hasn't had a lot of paranormal experiences in her life, so the few that have happened to her, she'll usually tell me about them. But she said some of these are just too terrifying. She cannot rehash it. She just doesn't want to, think about it again. And I get that, because this whole thing has been really hard for me. And I'm going to probably feel really drained after I'm done making this video. And it'll probably end up crashing on me while I try uploading it. It seems to happen anytime I tell a story about demons. So, there might be something to that. They're trying to keep me from sharing the news of the torment they've caused me. I'm telling you, some of y'all think that playing with Ouija boards is fun, and I've played with them twice in my entire life. When I was in 4th grade, I used to do like seances and stuff with my friends, and of course I was the one that instigated it, but I didn't know, how to protect myself back then, or the boundaries that you don't cross and things like that. And there's just things y'all have, and the thing is, I wasn't even messing with any of that stuff back then. This stuff was just there already in that house. So could you imagine if I tried communicating with something back then, or if I tried using a Ouija board in that house? I probably would have ended up possessed or something, and so it's a good thing I didn't mess with those things back then, but yeah, Mom lived there for 2 years, and one thing that did happen to her, and I think it happened more than once. My sister was in the playpen, Mom was in the kitchen, And all of a sudden, she walks in the living room and the front door's open, and there's a snake in the living room floor headed towards my sister's playpen. So, yeah. Like, nobody had opened the door. Mom always keeps doors locked even during the day. My mom has always had OCD and been paranoid. So my whole life, locks get checked 5 times or more, 3 to 5 times for her. I can't remember what her magic, I think her magic numbers is 3 and 7. So it's anywhere between 3 to 7 times the locks and stoves and things like that would get checked to make sure they were all off. So locks were always locked, windows were shut, all that, even during the day, because she was just paranoid and OCD. So, and still is. So for all that to happen, something was up, me and my friend, went exploring on that land, and we did end up finding that house, that was quite a ways back through the trees and through a field and past a creek. The grandmother's house we go. Back there was the foundation, and half of the fireplace still remained, and it was just really creepy. And on our way back up, we decided to go towards the creek on our way up instead this time. And there's like sand on the embankments of the creek, and like nobody went out there, okay, while we lived there, and probably not before that because it had been empty for a while. And there was a child's footprint walking through the sand, and then it just stops at one point in the middle of the sand and is no more. You don't see no more. And it was weirdest thing. And then we ended up finding literally a fossilized wooden child's shoe, because they used to make them out of wood, and this thing was fossilized. I wish I still had it. My dad ended up taking it from me at one point, but I think he ended up losing it, because me and him collect rocks and stuff and fossils and all that, and he took it from me, so I hadn't seen it in years. But it was creepy, like really creepy. And I think it was that same day that I found it too. Then we ended up driving to some of the back roads that went, like they were off the road we lived on. And there were some old cemeteries all in the general area of this part of town. And all it was very creepy. Everything was away from, there was no stores out this way. Very few houses, a lot of farmhouses and things like that. And then the houses were all spaced far apart. And there was a lot of old cemeteries out there too. And even till this day, this land, all this is like that out there. It's still a very untouched part of nature. And so, I mean, it is beautiful, but I don't think I'd ever live out there, even nearby. I think I've actually had a couple of nightmares about that house since I've lived there. So that's scary. It's like, why would I have nightmares? But that's how bad it's traumatized me, even 20 years later. So anyways, at the moment, that's all I can remember, because like I said, I have blocked out a lot of the things that happened to me there. If you guys want like a part 2, or y'all want some more ghost stories, first of all, if you enjoyed this, hit the thumbs up. I'm sorry it's so long. Normally, you guys know I don't like making my videos this long, but like I said, this story is just that long. Comment below on if you have any questions about any other things that happened to me. And subscribe, share my channel with some other people, get them to subscribe. And I hope you guys have a really great and spooky night, and I hope nothing creepy happens to you. And if it does, just give me a call, because I'm like, the Ghostbusters or something. I don't know. I'm lame. All right, good night, guys. Bye.